I mean, just accept the invitation over there, and we'll be good to go. Did you see my invite? Yes.
Hey, what's up, dude? Sorry, my phone fell off the stand here. Give me 1 second.
Oh, no worries, man.
Let's see if I can get somewhat of a decent looking view. There we go.
Good. So before we start, I gotta tell the story on how I got to you, because I think it's quite interesting, and then we go from there.
Cool.
So people that don't know me and the people that know me don't know this story because I didn't tell anybody. But I moved to Colorado in 2018, and I went to watch Slayer live for the first time, which you were there. And I was dealing with my depression. And after that show, I was like, fuck, man, I got to do something about it. And then I finally took the guitar out of the moving boxes. And then one day watching, I don't know if you know Curb Your Enthusiasm from that Larry Dave on HBO, he opened a Spite store. And since I was going to my stuff on therapy, I was like, that would be cool to open a Spite religion. So I made my blog like a Spite religion. And then the same day I went to the pool with Luke, and this dude was there, and then I saw his a tattoo with a skull and a drumstick on it. So I was like, let me talk to this guy. He's a metalhead. So I told my idea. He's like, man, that's a pretty cool idea, because with my blog, I was like, I want to do punk rock song for kids. So they kind of like my revenge like this. It's like teach punk rock for kids. And then he was like, that's a really good idea, man. And then I signed up for a School of Rock like I think it was 2 months later. And then I joined the band and I met you. And then I said like, well, I had this plan. And you're like, that's a really good idea. I'm like, okay. So I guess I'm in a good spot. And then that's when I met you. And I came up with the idea of doing punk rock songs. And I'm glad that you took that project.
Oh yeah, man. It's lots of fun. I'm happy to be a part of it, brother. So
yeah, so it was pretty cool. And it's funny because like I think metalheads, like we connect a lot like that, like when I told you the idea, you're like, fuck yeah, man, that's a really good idea. And then so tell me a little bit about your history with music. I know like I did a little album with 7 songs that you did the drums, and throughout that process we talked quite a bit. And I remember one of the talks that we had is like you said, like, oh yeah, music have helped me a lot. So I want to know a little bit more of your history with music and how music have helped you in quite a few ways.
Sure, man. So history with music, I started playing ball. My dad was like an old rocker. So been listening to like, he's not into too much like metal or anything, but he's playing on Sabbath and the Eagles and all that since I was younger, and like some of the old country stuff. So I got interested in playing guitar through that and through my brother. When I was 11 years old, started playing, just kind of picked one up, grabbed a guitar teacher around here, and then fell down the rabbit hole all us metalheads do. You start with like Sabbath and then you move. It's like, oh, I found Metallica, Slayer, and I really, really liked Slayer. So yeah. I was like, oh man, I got to find more of this. And then I fell down, you find Lamb of God and then Cannibal Corpse and Abominable Putridity, and you go down that brutal hole that, a lot of the death metal people do. So it kind of just all started that way. I had an instant love for it. Quickly became my favorite thing to do and the only thing I really cared about. So I, played throughout high school just in various bands and stuff. Nothing any nothing noteworthy, but just for fun with the buddies. Um,
And you,
and I
you
knew
played death metal the whole time, like Slayer
I
style?
did a
Or?
couple. So we had I did a hard rock project. I don't think that one even got to the point where there was a name. uh, yeah, and then there was I guess you could call it like deathcore e project that I did for a little while in high school with my friends. They're now called Within the Sick or something like that. I think that was what the name was. But only played a little bit with those guys. During this time, I was also, I was a football player and all that. So I was kind of busy throughout my time, but tried to do as much music as I could. Took lessons all throughout the whole thing, and I knew that I wanted to pursue this as a career. And as I knew I wanted to go to school for it and all that. Music helped me, being just a metalheader, like I'd going through the struggles everyone does as a teenager or whatnot. Even before then, just there's always dark times, and I always felt that whether it was listening to it or playing it myself, like specifically extreme metal music has really helped me kind of like let off some steam and some anger. I tend to meet dark times like that with, my initial response is not always sadness; it's always just rage.
Yeah.
So that's helped me kind of curb a lot of that, and then address the emotions in a way that I find is a lot more healthy. And then that even further deepen my love for it, just because it not only is something that I enjoy doing and something that allows me to be creative and express myself, but it also is something that helps just with everyday struggles of being human, being me, whatever you want to call it, right?
Yeah.
So that was I found a real beauty in that.
Yeah,
And
it's funny because like metal for me, like it has a lot of truth to it, and people are like people don't get it. Like they're like, oh, this is evil, and like they just start putting. It's like, no, man. It's like if you read some of the lyrics, you're like, man, it's really deep stuff about like life
yeah,
and about being human, like and going through the process of, like growing up, like in
yeah, dude.
general.
Well, I think like one of the beautiful things about metal is it's inherently so I guess you call it like counterculture-ish to the point where anything is really accepted, right?
Yeah.
There's songs that are deep dives into the human psyche or ones that are very meaningful, and then there's ones that are about splitting open aliens and drinking the blood and cutting out the hearts and stuff. But I think like I always like to refer back to this. There's a great interview with Alex Webster, the bass player of Cannibal Corpse, because throughout the years, everyone knows they've gotten a lot of scrutiny, whether it's through their album arts or their song lyrics. One of the first I guess you could say like public facing gore bands was Cannibal.
Yeah.
Uh, but what he describes his music as is art, and I think that's a perfect analogy because even though their lyrics deal with things like songs Stripped, Raped, and Strangled, or I Come Blood is another crazy one,
Yeah.
but he references like if you look at any Renaissance painting, none of our music is any darker or any more grotesque than a lot of the stuff that's out there. And why is theirs considered high class art and ours is considered filth?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I'm paraphrasing him. I'm not saying this verbatim, but that's
Yeah.
one thing that stuck with me. I was like, yeah, dude, death metal in this, the stuff that people can listen to an Iron Maiden song and maybe not Number the Beast and be like, oh yeah, they're not evil. But when you start diving down the realm of Venom and Cannibal Corpse, Arsis, wearing shirts like I do, people are like, oh, that's satanic, that's super evil, whatever. But to my mind, it's just art and self-expression in the same way that a horror movie director creates his films.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the great great beauties behind the style too, right? Is everything can be found here. Everything from just crazy art pieces of gore to the Saxon like travel battle kind of stuff. Historical references too. A lot of metalheads tend to be very into like historical or mythological
Yeah. Yeah. Power
standpoint.
Slave from Iron Maiden is like it's a freaking mythological album. Like it's
Yeah.
crazy. Like a Brave New World too. I mentioned Iron Maiden because I listen a lot to Iron Maiden, but all of those like there's a lot of like deep meaning into it.
Hmm.
And I remember I saw an interview with Tom Araya that he said like, it's art, man. We're just reflecting the negative sides of it, and
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
pretty much that, you know. Like,
Yeah, yeah. God needs the devil, right? You know,
exactly.
yeah.
There's no
There's a
heaven without a hell.
right, yeah, dude. And it's like it's such a nice parallel. Like you can't obviously metal and punk are not the only styles of music that deal with dark things. You know,
Yeah,
even pop artists nowadays, like Billie Eilish and stuff, they deal with some pretty heavy standpoints or like viewpoints. But um, I think uh, metal for me specifically is the one music that not only speaks to it, but you can hear it and physically feel it,
yeah,
right? So if you're when someone's singing about like very aggressive feelings, whether it be massive anger or uh, deep sorrow, the music reflects it, you know. So like it feels like you're when the song is very brutal and mad, you know, like it transfers in such a way that I mean, a common form of like dancing at metal shows is mosh pit, right? It's
yeah.
just bringing chaos, you know. Um, but it when you hear like a fast double kick thrash part or you know something that's just super low chuggy, um, I feel like it links so perfectly with whatever people are talking about, and you know, and sometimes it can even be funny, but
Yeah,
I
yeah,
feel like that translates really well, right? As
yeah.
opposed to some who could be trying to hide it. One that comes to mind is the pop song. I wish I could remember the name, but like the all the other kids with their bumped up kicks, run, run, run
Oh
faster than
yeah,
my
yeah.
pop, right? So that's a song that deals with very heavy subject matter, but when you listen to it, it sounds super
Yeah,
cheery.
so yeah,
Great reminders, right? So it doesn't, to me, that doesn't really affect the subject matter in the way that like a metal song about that would.
yeah. The metal brings the reality of the feeling to the lyrics and to that. And it's funny you mentioned Mosh Pit. I remember like throughout this time when I was in a school of rock band. One day, you know, I lost a baby, you know, on we were pregnant, and I remember you came to me. It's like, is there anything I can do? Then I said, like, I don't know, maybe a mosh pit. And then you're like, hell yeah! The look is like, you gave me a list of concerts to go, like in 10 minutes from my house. I'm like, see, metalheads understand like some shit like this because like if I have ever talked to anybody else, like nobody would be like, oh, a mosh pit, like what the hell? But you were like,
Yeah.
yeah, man, I get you. You know, loud music, like a good mosh pit will take you out of the crap. You know.
Yeah, man. It's I forget. There's a documentary that addresses. I think it's a Headbanger's Journey, but it's you know, mosh pits can be brutal places, but most of the ones I've ever been in, it's just it's an avenue for people to work out. You know, not only physically, but just work out some of that stuff that's in their head.
Yeah.
Respond to the music in a positive way, and you can see that in a lot of the mosh pits too, right? You know, people fall down. There's a rule: you get them up. Don't let anyone, no
Yeah,
one get.
yeah.
You know, it's a community thing too. I think. Um,
I was
Metal is one
going.
of the like, outcast communities, right? So it's very important at like shows and or just to know that you're part of someone and you're not the only one going through all this, or you're not the only one who, you know, even though you may be the only one in your school or only one in your job or anyone in your friend group that's into this,
They
there are
listen to
people
that
around
guy.
that like you and that you know you can join in a society and a community with.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned because you know, mosh pit. Like I told everybody, like I always felt much better in any heavy metal song, concert or punk rock concert or anything like that. And the mosh pit, it's like it's very friendly. Like we are punching each other and pushing and stuff. But the minute that you fall down, like I never fell down and people step on me. It was actually the opposite. Like people will open and pick me up. And and I remember I went to watch Pennywise. It was back in Florida. I went to watch Pennywise and something else. But a band, like a local band, opened. So the mom is like, the mosh pit is like, it's killing it back there. But the mom is trying to get like the picture for the kid. And a dude
Yeah,
that was like your size, like strong, and like he was in the middle of the mosh pit. He saw the mom. He went there, he's protecting the mom, like the mosh pit, like killing everybody here. And like nobody touched the lady because like people freaking respect, you know, like it looks the opposite. Like when people look like they don't understand, it's funny too, like the book that I'm reading, like The Secret History of Rock and Roll, they talk a lot about like those mosh pits are kind of rituals, like the way the
Mhm.
guy describes. So it's pretty freaking cool. So
Absolutely. Yeah, dude. And it's like, I'm not going to go out on a limb and be the guy that says that fighting and violence doesn't happen in a mosh pit because, I've
well, yeah,
experienced that. But on the whole, I'd say a good 99% of any ones that I've been a part of myself or seen or played for have been extremely positive environments. It's just, it's people enjoying getting together and celebrating something that they love,
yeah,
whether it's music, the band that's on, or you may not even know the band. Something
yeah.
just hits you, breaks the right chord, man, then, it's also, I like, as a performer too, I always like to kind of address this, is like, uh, it's a mosh pit or just, whether it's dancing, moshing, headbanging, raising the metal horns, or could just be like attentively watching. It's a way that allows the performers and the audience to connect, right?
Yeah.
It gives us feedback as performers as to if you're enjoying yourselves. So if we don't see people enjoying themselves, well, that means we got to step it up. We got to try and do something to liven up the room, make it more fun for people, be more entertaining. And on the other side too, right? As a spectator, it's a way that you can feel connected to the artist as
Yeah.
opposed to just sitting them watching them like they're on a screen. It's what, as I said, attentive watching is totally the same thing, but it's in that connection that I think the harder styles of music have a unique kind of feel when you're at a concert too, right? You go see like a jazz concert, and don't get me wrong, I love jazz. Jazz is amazing, but that relationship and that, like, I don't want to say intimate moment, but just like the connection you can feel with the people that are playing, I feel is a lot stronger in heavier styles of music.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's I never thought about the artist perspective because like I never been in so many stages before. But I can totally understand like when you said, I was like, okay, it makes sense, because it's like it's a connection, and it's funny because I gotta bring it up that final tour of Slayer because Slayer was always my dream to watch, and I never had the opportunity, but I had the opportunity here in Colorado to watch the final tour, and that
Yeah,
final tour was something because Tom Araya, he was really like you could feel how grateful the guy was. And I remember like when the concert finished, he went to each corner of the stage, like thanking the fans. And that was like I got goosebumps now because it was for me it was like you could see the energy and how grateful the guy as a performer was for like and vice versa because Slayer is Slayer, but
yeah.
that concert was something that changed my life completely.
Mhm.
and it
Well, that's good, yeah, man. Those stories like that are kind of what every performer or every metalhead lives to be a part of. It's as like for Tom or I, I'm sure that was extremely validating. It's like, well, what we did mattered.
yeah
And also from everyone else's perspective, just like without fans and without people listening, I hate to use the word fans because it implies some sort of hierarchy. Um, a community around the band is what I like to kind of go with, right?
yeah
Without someone rallying around and helping the band out, whether that's sharing songs like, "Hey, dude, check out Rain and Blood, it's sick," or going to the shows. That's really what allows people to pursue their dreams. Like Kerry King, Tom Araya, all those dudes um, were, I guess you could call it like a triumph of the people that really dug what they were doing. That's
yeah
how they rose to that status.
yeah. It's funny like you mentioned. It's like my childhood. If it wasn't for Slayer, my childhood would be like a living hell more than what it was. Because
Oh
like
yeah, yeah,
Slayer
yeah.
was.
Opening for Slayer, that's a
Yeah,
that's a
man,
legend.
I remember like I would walk to school and it was 7 a.m. I would be with Angel of Death in my headphones. And then my friends were like, how the hell you can listen to this? I'm like, listen, if I don't listen to this, I can't handle the school. So it's better to put Angel of Death like right like loud. 7 a.m. I would walk to school and that was it. And that was my walking to school music and Slayer like literally saved me from a lot of trouble, man. So and I'm grateful because uh, Postmortem, the song that you taught me, it was one
Yeah.
of the songs that was the first song that actually my brother made me record the lyrics. I know the lyrics from beginning to the end because I needed to record, otherwise he would I would be in trouble with him. So, but I gotta tell you, like learning
Good brother,
that,
man.
yeah, learning that song with the guitar, it was like, man, this is freaking awesome. And I don't think a lot of people understand like the energy that goes into the music, learning and creating, and you know, putting it out there. And you, like, how many bands did you have before? Like, I know you did a lot of concerts and you did tours and things like that.
Yeah,
I don't
just
know if you
maybe
want to share some of the
with a couple.
stories.
Yeah, so just really small tours and stuff, you know, around California and surrounding areas.
Well, a small tour, but you got to meet this guy, right? Once, Lemmy.
Yeah, so that's actually that was kind of a product of where we were. I was in a band. The band I did the most with is a band called Heredicide. It's a band that I formed with a few of my buddies in college, actually at MI. So we were all, I went to a college called Musicians Institute in Hollywood for guitar performance, and that band was formed there. We were lucky enough. A couple of our friends, brothers, in a band called Cynical. You know, we were like 3 weeks into rehearsing, still terrible. They hit us up like, "Hey, man, we got a gig. Would you like to jump on and play with us?" Like, yeah, absolutely, let's do this. And it ended up being at the Rainbow. So that's you know, the Rainbow.
That's a bar in Los Angeles, right?
Yeah, yeah. So we were our first gig was there, and it's this like tiny little. It's awesome because it's the Rainbow, but there's just like tiny little stage, I guess you could call it, but it sits below a bar. So there's a bar, and then there's some staircases down that have like this open floor where the band sets up.
Yeah.
And we played our set there, had a great time, and sure enough, you know, like we knew that that was kind of Lemmy's hangout, so we were all kind of running around trying to find him. And we found him in his spot at the end of the day, so it was just it was this surreal experience, you know, like, oh man, dude, we just played a show, and I mean, he wasn't watching or anything crazy, but like, it's like played a show in a place where Lemmy killed
Well,
himself.
Lemmy is, yeah.
Like, yeah, I was just it was wild, dude. But yeah, that's so the bands that I had that I did the most with in my time were Heredicide. That's the one where we did like shows up in NorCal and stuff. Opened for a few bands, like notable bands, Insomnium from Sweden. We actually had a fortunate opportunity to make a couple other bands from Sweden too. We played kind of like a Swedish style of death metal, so we
Nice.
up with a lot. Yeah, we had a couple friends in a band called Inferior and Deception that came down from Sweden, played a couple shows with us in the LA area and surrounding. But the other band that I did too was with a couple guys I lived with when I was out at MI and like in the working world when I was working at ESP. We had a band called Despotic, so that was like a black and death metal band. That one was kind of short lived. We got to play a few shows with that with some killer local LA bands, and that was a killer time. So
nice. And you got to meet a few of those bigger band guys like Kerry King and stuff, right?
Yeah. So well, I got not through more through like my tech career.
Yeah.
As like a worker at ESP. So I got to meet like Kerry King and all those guys at NAMM, National Association of Music Merchants Conference.
Yeah.
That's where I met a lot of like the really big ones, you know, Kerry King. Met the guys from Cannibal a couple times come through either MI or at different, you know, see them after shows and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel very fortunate for what I've been able to experience in the music.
Yeah, that's cool. Like, not just meeting Lemmy. I think it's kind of like, for me, would be like, okay, I'm done, you know, because it's funny. This guy, like, I don't know. Dave Grohl told a story that like he, you know, everybody look at Lemmy thinks like the guy is like insane, but he was the type of guy that one day he got into Dave Grohl's changing room and he had Jack and Coke on his hand, but
really?
I think Dave Grohl's daughter or son, I don't know, was there. And then he hid the cup. He put the cup away because, like, I don't want to be drinking in front of your kids. And it's like, you will never imagine, like, an attitude like that from, you know, like, from the stereotype that people put the guy into it. But You know, like
Right.
I heard he was a very respectful guy in that sense, you know, so that's pretty cool. And
Yeah, man, I never heard that story, but
yeah,
that's cool to hear.
yeah, Dave Grohl told the story. I think it was in his speech on Lemmy's funeral.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So if you Google, put it on YouTube, it's a very nice speech, man. It's pretty cool. And you know, Lemmy was for me, it's one of the guys. Which I have
Oh,
one song in my album that is inspired by Lemmy that start with the bass, which I
hmm.
think it's one of your favorites
Yeah, it is.
from what we did. So it's pretty cool. And
Yeah, man.
now you're a music teacher too, right?
Yeah, not so much right now, but yeah, I've been a music teacher. Was fortunate enough to teach you, so
I'm happy for you to join my project, my crazy project. Uh, but now I understand that now there is many different styles of because like the other day I was looking at there's a metal core, and some other stuff. Like since you, because I'm an old guy, I'm old school. I go to like Slayer, Anthrax, you know, Metallica. I'm like Megadeth. I'm very like old school, and I'm trying to learn more of the new bands now. But so if you can like explain a little bit of those style, would be appreciated.
I will certainly try, man. Metal's
It's
I
crazy,
wouldn't say
right?
blank, but definitely there is a ton of subdivision within genres.
Yeah.
You know, there's got to be thousands of different subgenres within metal. Um, I can so without going back to the ones that you
Just pick the basics, you know, and then and see what you like. Because I don't even understand. I'm curious too. Because
sure.
I have a rock and roll party on my website for kids. And then the other day somebody asked for a metalcore, and then the lady that does the thing, she asked me like, "What is metalcore?" I was like, "I don't even know. Let me look it up." But you know, I found out there is like so many different styles now. For me, it was just thrash metal, and that was it.
Yeah, so okay, I can kind of go into that a little bit. Um, Thrash metal kind of started off like as a don't really want to say a response to, but as a kind of like an antithesis of like the glam era, right? So during the glam era of metal, we kind of had the Poisons and the Motley Crues, where it was all very happy-go-lucky party guys dressed like girls. A lot of the bands in that scene were kind of or they wanted something that wasn't that. You know,
Yeah,
they wanted metal to go in a different direction. So we kind of had the Thrashers from the Bay Area and New York and um, some in Los Angeles too. So that's kind of what thrash spawned out of, and thrash was really like to me, and I can't generalize this, right? Because music means different things to everybody. But to me, thrash is kind of like the perfect marriage of first wave of British heavy metal and punk, right? It's let's take these kind of things, we'll dumb it down a little bit, not quite so many harmonies, but we're gonna play it fast as hell, and we're gonna play it neat, right?
yeah,
So that's kind of what thrash got. Now, going a little bit more modern from that, out of thrash, I'm an extreme metal guy, so I like to take down this route. Uh, After like the thrash era, late '80s kind of stuff, in the '90s, that's really where death metal started to spawn. It was in like Tampa, Florida, a couple other places. New York was a big one for death metal. Oh, really, kind of everywhere. The black metal scene was also starting to kind of go around in Norway, Norway, Sweden, that kind of deal. But that what the death metal philosophy, or at least to my perspective, was like, let's take thrash and to the next level, right? How much more crazy can we make this? So they started doing things, you know, tuning lower, faster kick drums, blast beats, you know, um, guttural vocals were kind of a product of that, you know. Thrash kind of had those higher pitched screechies, you know, the kind of
yeah,
stuff. Where death metal is like, okay, let's kind of take that, and then death metal still used that, but then some guys, you know, Chris Barnes or the Glenn Benz from DSI, that went low,
yeah.
just trying to make that really low rumble. And that's kind of how we got like a death metal scene. Now, death metal means a lot of different things today than it did then. Death metal back then was like your DSIs, your death. Some people call Possessed the first to do death metal because of an album called Seven Churches with a song called on it called death metal. I'm more of the I believe more that a band called Death with Chuck Schuldiner, album called Scream Bloody Gore is the first death metal record ever. That's just my opinion. I think it has a lot more of the death metal essentials. Okay, so the reason I went through that track was to kind of describe what the core stuff is. So with death metal and like your standard heavy metal still going on, it's important to keep in mind too, right? Like these eras of thrash and death and first wave of British heavy metal, just because a new era started, the other one didn't really disappear. It became less prevalent, but these things were still going, right? So like during death metal, there was still thrash, or like during death metal, there were still guys doing original style heavy metal, your Maiden and Priest and the like. So those things were still happening. And the core evolution is kind of out of, the name itself is an amalgamation of heavy metal and hardcore.
Oh,
right.
I see.
So hardcore is like your suicidal tendencies kind of stuff, right?
But suicidal tendencies is more punk in theory, right?
Yeah, so hardcore is kind of like metal and punk mixed in this context.
Okay.
Right? Like the punkers they'll do like thrashy stuff.
Yeah.
So hence, like suicidal is the reference I was giving.
Yeah, because suicidals do a lot of like trash stuff, but they still have that punk beat.
So that's kind of what like, people would call, or at least a lot of metalheads, myself included, I can't speak for everybody, obviously, that I'd call like hardcore. So metalcore, what that was they took a lot of the elements of like death metal and then mixed it with hardcore. And metalcore kind of gets like, so you have like the guttural vocals and then some singing parts too. Still some punky stuff, but also some sludgy, like Morbid Angel-esque riffs. Good bands for reference of this are like your early 2000s groups, the All That Remains, Killswitch Engage. I think they kind of have their own thing going, but I put them in that group too. Bleeding Through, what's another big one? Oh gosh. This was not my favorite era of music, but I think I said As I Lay Dying. There's another one. All That Remains, As I Lay Dying. Yeah, those kind of bands, right?
Yeah.
So think of like singy choruses with some breakdowns and guttural vocals. That's kind of like a metalcore trope. Then there's also deathcore, which actually, it wasn't like, they almost spawned at the same time. Metalcore was like, they went a little bit more, I guess you could call it radio friendly. So they took like death metal and hardcore and made it like a little bit more quote unquote like listenable. Which, that's not my decision, but like, I guess that is how you can describe it. A little bit more like broader audience base or broader audience target. Deathcore, on the other hand, was taking like sludgier elements of like more of the death metal stuff, and let's make it gnarly. So slower riffs, super low tuned, mixed with crazy fast stuff going on, and just really trying to push the envelope to, as I guess the word I'd use is brutal as music can go. Yeah. Right, just make it as gnarly as it can go. Bands that kind of pioneered this, in my opinion, are like early Whitechapel, Job for a Cowboy. Some early like Motionless in White. I think I kind of prefer like the Whitechapel flavor a little bit more. But those are kind of the big dudes in that. So if you've ever seen those shirts, they're usually pretty intense.
Yeah, I've seen it some stuff, but it's like more like a glimpse. Like I don't know too much about it. Like from the newest bands, like which is not so new. I know Slipknot. It's like newer for me because like when I did Iron Man, I kind of stopped looking for new music and I just stayed into my old stuff. And then it's funny because like I think he went a period where Slayer didn't do much, Iron Maiden didn't do much, and that period I was doing Iron Man, and then out of a sudden like Iron Maiden came up with a new album, and I was like, holy crap, that's pretty cool. And then Slayer, started doing a little bit more concerts and came out with new stuff. I was like, okay, I stick with that. So Slipknot is kind of like the newest type of thing that I listen to a lot more. And
so when were you doing Ironmans, dude?
What?
Like what years?
I started doing it in 2004, and 2016 I did my last one.
Oh, okay, nice. Yeah, so you were around for a lot of like the new metal movement with Slipknot and Mushroom Head and those kind of dudes, right? The Corns.
Yeah, Corn. I picked it up Corn, and I was I heard Corn. Follow the Leader was the first album that I got from Corn,
Hmm.
and that was it. The Corn and Slipknot. And Slipknot, I learned it because a kid that I worked with on a running store, he was like, "Man, you gotta listen to this." And then because he saw me listen to Cavaleiro Conspiracy, and then he's like, "Oh, you're gonna like this." And then he gave me a like he burned like a few songs for Slipknot, so like you gotta listen to this, and then I got hooked. So
Yeah, for sure.
like, but a period of time I was like, I just want to stick with the old stuff because I was using it for training, and I didn't get into much with the new ones. But Slipknot, you put in which category, like trash too, or
You know, like a lot of people would call them new metal, like NU
in
metal. That I'm kind of documented as that not being one of my favorite eras. Again, no judgment for people if that's yours. It just doesn't resonate with me quite the same way. But Slipknot's one of the bands that kind of transcends that for me because I do, you know, I've been a maggot for a long time. We'll call it that way.
yeah,
So yeah, I guess I'd call them like new metal, but they have like their very distinct own flavor to it. I never was able to get super heavy into like the Corn, Limp Bizkit, and all that, but Slipknot was kind of different.
so
So
Limp Bizkit, I heard you were a fan of Limp Bizkit.
what was that?
I heard you were a fan of Limp Bizkit.
Oh yeah, no, not really, not really.
I used
Each
to
their
listen.
own, man. If there's people listening that are into them, you do you, man. I'm happy for it, but like that band is not for me.
Yeah, no, I know.
Like really, really not for me.
Which I think this is one of the cool stuff about metalheads. You know, like when I talked to you that day in School of Rock, I said, "Oh, you don't like Limp Bizkit," and you were like, "Fuck no, man." But hey, you do you. Like you like what you like, and then I was like, "Yeah, that's exactly what a metalhead would say at any moment in life. It's like you like what you like. You know, there's nothing you can do about it." But
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's a little bit of elitism in some sects of metal or some like friend groups, but on the whole, I think you know most metalheads are pretty accepting. I mean, by almost I can't say by definition, but like most of the metalheads I know grew up as like the kind of outcasty people. So like the last thing we'd ever want to do is kind of make someone feel
the same way,
separated
yeah,
from that doesn't make any sense, right?
yeah, yeah. And most of us like grew up like in like feeling a little excluded in one way or the other.
Hmm.
And it's like we're like, I'm not gonna make the guy feel the same way, you know. Like it translates pretty well. I think it's pretty cool, you know. And I think it's pretty funny and ironic that people would like think that the totally opposite. You know, when you
Hmm.
talk to most metalheads, you know, like I said, that guy in the pool, like with a skull with a drumstick right here on the forehead, like you look at nobody would talk to the guy. And then I went like he was super nice and he even said like, "Hey man, if you want to use my recording stuff, you know, you can use it." And I'm like, "Okay, I don't know anything about it, but all I know is like I wanted to do music, uh, uh, which is funny because when I came to you, I was like, "Hey, can you do the drums and the bass?" And like, I don't know what you even think, but I was still learning guitar, and you're like, "What the heck? I'm gonna do a song," but it came out like decent, I guess.
Yeah. No, man, I'm all for it. Like, I think speaking to like the teacher side of me, one of the best things you can do for yourself as a musician and just general growth is record yourself, right? And this is kind of like this translates beyond the music realm, but I'll kind of keep it in the music. Like, if you can hear what you're doing back, it's a lot different than being the person who's producing it, right? Anyone who's ever heard themselves speak, whether it's on camera or anything like that, knows exactly what I'm talking about,
Yeah,
right? What you sound like to yourself, or when you're the one actually, doing the improvisation or trying to create something, it's a lot different than hearing it back to yourself.
yeah.
Um,
And
so I'm all for recording as like a means of musical growth and like releasing. So even though you were still learning, man, like I believe anyone that has ideas should have an outlet to try and get them out.
exactly, you gotta start
So if I can
somewhere.
help you do that in any way possible, like if even if it's just you're still getting used to recording or still getting used to playing guitar, all that, like anything I can do to kind of help you translate your ideas will, you know, help you out, help me out, because we both get the benefit of working together, building those relationships, building that musical connection, and also just, you know, nothing's more satisfying in this world for me speaking as like the artist. Like nothing is more satisfying than seeing a vision come to life in one form or another.
Yeah.
So I like one of the coolest things I can do, and I try to do this whenever possible, is like if I can help someone achieve that, I want to.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Because, well, you made one of my dreams come true. So I'm grateful for that, and I'm glad that you decided to took the chance there. And but the really cool thing about it, and like we can talk a little bit of punk rock because I like a lot of more the heavy punk rock, the hardcore punk rock, not the pop punk.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, usually Green Day is the lightest I go in terms of punk rock, like which is what I like to listen. But anyways, but it's funny because like every song that I did, I was like, it was inspired on this. And then you captured the idea of the drums that I was talking about. Like, it was magic, man. I was like, when I listened, I was like, this is exactly what I was thinking about it. So, I don't know, what can you say on this process of, like I know I was learning a lot to record, and like a bunch of times you were asking me like, how are you doing this? And I was like, I don't know, man. I'm just a punk. I just plug it in, record, and then hope for the best. And you're like, no. Let's go back and then do this and this. But just explain a little bit of that process, how it was, and how did you get the inspiration or whatever? Where did that come from?
Sure, man. So when kind of approaching, I mean, just to clarify for everyone out there, I'm not a drummer. I did this all through MIDI tiles and stuff. So this is all engineering side stuff. It was just what was available to us at the time.
Yeah.
So if any real drummers want Richard, hit him up.
Well, yeah, but honestly, the idea of the drums is still like you acting like a drummer. Like, of course, the drum engineer, but
I like to clarify that because there's drummers out there that are way more creative and way better at doing drums than I am. So I want to clarify that, like, I was working in a different realm. But to kind of speak on the inspiration, I think a lot of being able to translate what you wanted, I think it really starts with knowing you. Because before we started this, I was, running rehearsals with you at School Rock for a while. You and I always kind of like hang out and shoot the shit after too. So we had that just like personal friendship.
Yeah.
Whether it's, we talk about music, talk about songs, or just general stuff. So I feel like when you're closer to someone like that, you can kind of anticipate a little bit better what they want musically or what they want just personally. Just a general relationship. On top of that too, a big portion is, this is one of the benefits I got as a teacher. I always listened to anything and everything I could. Or at least give everything a chance, right? If I find something that's not for me, then I won't continue too far down it. But just listening to a lot of music, right? Listening to and trying to learn a lot of music. So, everything from jazz, country, classical, death metal, punk, reggae, listen to it and try and digest what's going on. Listening to it for pleasure, obviously, but also listen to it as a musician. Try and understand what's going on, what they're doing, what the tricks are that make this song what it is. Being a teacher has kind of given me that perspective because I had to convey that to others, right? I had to have the ability to listen to something once and be like, okay, so this is what they're doing to kind of achieve this, and this is kind of how they're approaching it, right?
Yeah.
Because my goal as a teacher was always to obviously teach people what they wanted to learn and get them to play it, but I also wanted to give them the tool sets should they ever want to try and write stuff themselves and be creative with their instruments.
Yeah.
I wanted to give them the ability to have like a reference book, like you can't really create anything if no one shows you. You can't paint something if no one tells you paint exists. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
So we got to just convey what the tricks are, what they're approaching, and that really helped me. So when you'd send me stuff, I think you giving me the reference, like what this is kind of based on, kind of what you're going for. First of all, you're able to articulate it very clearly, so thank you. That made my life a lot easier.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then on top of that, just being familiar, right? Like a lot of the bands and songs and stuff, you said like, hey, I kind of like I'm going for this, but with my flavor. It'd be a combination of songs. A lot of the times I knew the song or knew the band, so I kind of knew their bag of tricks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I knew like when you said like, oh, dude, yeah, like I have this song going this way, but like I'd really, it sounds kind of this way, but give me like a Pennywise feel on the drums. To me, that wasn't like, okay, let me see what Pennywise does. It was just like, okay, yeah, I know Pennywise. I know kind of what to do. So that allowed me to translate, I think, a little bit more and a little bit more effectively. Is just being familiar with the band, liking the music, and being able to identify what makes like a Pennywise drum part a Pennywise drum part.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I obviously add a little bit of like personality in there too. So I do. You probably heard it. I always add like there's some like death metal blast beats or like some double kick stuff in there just to kind of put my little stamp on it to your approval. But
yeah, no, I think it was a Rock Punk Arena that you did like a few things with the drums that was pretty cool. That it kind of saved the song too, because that song I was a little sloppy, but it kind of like it helped bring it up the song big time. And but it was crazy because like when I met you and then we started talking, I was like, this is the guy who's gonna help me. And the translation of like, hey, like Rock Your Boat, for example, for like, man, I had the idea coming up with American Jesus from Bad New Religion, and you like, boom, you made it the flavor in there, put in your stuff, and when I heard it, I was like, that's it, that's the sound that I was looking for, and that's freaking awesome, man. I think it's like understanding that and being able to express and that interconnection that we had throughout this process. It was like it's I think it's amazing, man. It's like it's an energy exchange and you capturing the idea of the song. It was, I mean, I don't know if my album's not, obviously, I've been learning guitar for not even 2 years, basically. And you saw me starting, like, I couldn't even play Journey to the End from Rancid, the whole song in the first rehearsal. So you saw where I was coming from, and, to put that whole thing together, it was kind of cool. And hopefully my next one will be a lot more.
Yeah, man. It's a testament to your work ethic and your passion. For sure.
Yeah.
It's one thing that a lot of people, I shouldn't say a lot of people, one thing that's very hard to realize as an artist or even as someone who's a fan of music is when someone releases something, I would put money on the artist not being happy with it. Right? We talked about this a little while ago, right? It's that process of like, Kerry King's a kick-ass guitar player, he writes great riffs, or like Paul Gilbert can shred. But what do these guys keep doing? Practicing, practicing or trying to write new things. If it's not like sitting there practicing technique, they're investigating different avenues, trying to be creative. Because at any stage, whether you're a professional or a very, very beginner, right, you're never done.
Yeah.
There's no like, all right, I've learned guitar now. That doesn't exist.
That doesn't happen, exactly.
Yeah. Or I've learned music. I know how to do. I'm an audio engineer. Like, and I think to kind of piggyback off of that, one of the biggest like forms of success, or like not forms of success, I'm sorry, one of the biggest traits of successful people I've, through mentors in my life or people I know, is just the willingness and always the hunger to get better, learn more in anything we can do.
Yeah.
So that's music, guys seeking out different kinds of stuff, trying to play in different things, play in different projects to push their limits, but always stacking on, right?
Yeah.
Iron Maiden wouldn't get to where they are if they were like, all right, we released Killers, that's good enough. It's like, all right, so how can we take what we did and then go more? How can we be more creative? What can we do to bring some new stuff in? And ironically, a band I kind of think is a great example of doing all this is the Beatles, because they had so many different eras in their career, but not only did they with music, like the playing aspect of things, their contributions to the recording industry are astounding, right? Their whole goal when they entered that era, if they stopped performing live and they just went in the studio, their whole mindset was, let's just be as creative as we can with any sort of tools. And if nothing's been done with it before, like putting things on the tape or recording different things in weird ways, or like actively messing up the recording, they'd try anything, and that's how a lot of the cool techniques we have today were kind of like spawned.
Which
So it's
which
just
band is that?
digging around. What?
Which band is that?
The Beatles.
The Beatles. Oh, yeah. Which
Yeah.
Lemmy was super fan of the Beatles, man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't know that about the Beatles.
Mm-hmm. Ozzy too. Ozzy's longtime Beatlemaniac.
No, really.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
so
Well,
they stopped performing live. That was it. That to just work on. That's crazy, man.
yeah. So they stopped doing live performances to focus on you know, uh, to my knowledge, some people out there may have more Beatles knowledge than I do, but to my knowledge, they stopped performing for a couple of reasons. One, they wanted to focus on the creative aspect of
Yeah.
making music. I think they really fell in love with kind of pushing the envelope or trying weird things. A lot of the more experimental Beatles tunes came out of this era, right? Where it's like, it's not Yellow Submarine anymore. Things are a little stranger. A lot of that came from there. And I think this may just be rock and roll legend too, but another reason I heard was when they play live, the sound off stage of, girls, guys screaming, people just being hyped up to be there would often drown out the band.
Oh,
So, they either couldn't hear themselves on stage or people in the back rows couldn't hear themselves. Like, well, what's the point? If we're just going to go be there just to hear people scream and not listen to our music, then let's start releasing records, So that could be just one of those like rock and roll tall tales that is maybe true, but no one will ever confirm or deny. But that's what I heard.
yeah. I'm reading Lemmy's autobiography, and he like the stories that he has. He says like they used to perform in a stupid small amp, where the vocal, the bass, and the guitar was all plugged into it. Like he said that back in the days, like if you had an amp and an instrument, you were like a king for any band. So it's kind of it's so crazy to read, and you're like, man, the guy is a phenomenal artist, and he started this way, like with small amp, and like when you read that, it's almost like makes sense, but you got to start from somewhere. But a lot of people don't put that in perspective. So
Yeah, dude, there's a term I hate in entertainment in general called overnight sensation.
yeah,
Because that's never the case, right? In music or acting or anything like that, they got popular at a quick interval, so their career kind of went like this.
yeah,
But what they're missing is all the, thousands of hours of practice and refinement and stuff that led up to anything along those lines, And there's another kind of word of wisdom that I think it was given to me by a guy named Andy Ford. He's a local LA radio host and show promoter. And we were playing, one of our very first gigs with him, one of his gigs that he put on. And, we were talking after the show. He's like, yeah, you guys are pretty good, whatever. We were like, yeah. And we just started kind of rambling off the musician things, like, screwed this up. This sucked. This is,
yeah.
And he's like, hey, listen to me. Everybody sucked at one time, right? And the way you get better is just by doing it and keeping on trucking, right? So I was like, whoa. And he didn't use those words. That he would never use those words, but that's my version of it, right? So that kind of stuck with me, right? It's like you have to kind of think about that with everything you do. Again, I like, Motorhead wasn't Motorhead at one point, even if they were. Their first couple shows, dude, or their first couple times, all those guys spent time learning their instruments that they couldn't play a power chord or couldn't play whatever it may be, the latest Beatles tune. They were sitting in their room struggling mad that they couldn't figure it out.
Yeah.
That's everything, and then you just grow and you get better, and then the challenges just evolve.
Yeah, it's crazy because like when I heard the whole album, I was like, man, my voice, it's fucked up. And then you're like, dude, you gotta start from somewhere. And then I remember my first Iron Man. I was like, yeah, because when I did my first Iron Man, I destroyed myself. And then I'm like, dude, I was 260 pounds, like 6 months ago, smoking 2 packs of cigarettes. I finished an Ironman. That's good. Now let's get better. And then that process, it's like, but it's a process that a lot of people, like when they look at it, especially artists, like, well, your art suck. And then it's like, no, dude, it's like, it's sucking now, but, the tendency is only to get better with time, or.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, and it's.
You,
I think I like using the workout analogies too. Like I think that was perfect. Is when you first start off, like I can't even imagine trying to run an Ironman, dude. Like I huge respect to you for ever trying
thank
something
you,
that
man.
incredible. And awesome to you for completing them too. But I always like to approach anything. It's music is kind of the one we're talking about now, but any challenge in life, you can kind of take that same approach, right?
Yeah,
It's not ever. First of all, you're never done getting better, but the first thing you got to realize you got to be happy with and like strive for incremental goals, right? Like your first Ironman, just finishing. It's important to take a
yeah,
step back and be like, holy shit, dude, I just finished a fucking Ironman. You
exactly.
know what I mean? And then, you're on to the next one. What's your next goal? All right, now let's knock these mile times down a little bit. Or,
Yeah,
you're playing guitar, you're playing like, all right, we released our first record. Pretty good. We're pretty happy with it. What can we do better next time? Well, we have these ideas of what we can do to the music, and then we can, let's spend some time getting more familiar with production. And then you just take these little goals, right?
yeah,
And the nice thing about music is you have like CDs aren't really released too much anymore, but if you think about it that way, it's like you have a track record. It's like goal one met. Then the next one, you can kind of see the progress of
the
things
program.
growing into be.
Yeah, yeah, because you see, like the first, if you compare the first Iron Maiden album, the first Slayer album to the latest ones, is like it's completely different. Like
Yeah, dude, take Slayer, right? Like the Show No Mercy era, right?
yeah,
They got way heavier after that, and they made like small little decisions. One of the things that I think that I attribute a lot to how brutal it became is they decided to pull their guitars down a half step,
yeah,
right? Show No Mercy standard. Little things like that. It's little decisions and little experimentations that kind of like take things
to the
further.
next level.
Yeah,
That's
and
cool,
then
man.
things evolve. It doesn't always have to be like this strict vertical movement. That's not the way anything goes.
Well,
Sometimes you're gonna step, or sometimes you're gonna down. Your mile times, your strength's gonna get you a bit weaker one day, and then it's through those failures and through those successes that you kind of figure out your path.
yeah,
Your path, if your path through music, whatever you're doing.
whatever you're doing. Yeah, and it's kind of like also like if you go up too fast, you come down too quick too. So it's
Yeah,
better to go steady that you can kind of keep reaching higher, higher levels than actually. But I know it's getting time, and we're close to 1 hour here. I usually ended up always passing, but before we close, I want to kind of like go through a few music stuff. I'm gonna pick on Slayer a little bit because Slayer it's heavy on my book. It has a
Mhm.
lot of Slayer stuff. So your favorite Slayer album?
Favorite Slayer album? With for lack of sounding super cookie cutter, Rain and Blood is my favorite Slayer album.
Raining Blood.
Yeah, it's one of it's like I love Show No Mercy and I love oh gosh, I always forget the name of this one, the one with Disciple on it. Whatever, Christ Illusion's good too, but I feel like all the other records that I've listened to from, and I love a lot of them. Rain and Blood's the only one that I repeatedly go back to and cover to cover, right?
Okay.
I don't skip any songs. It's just like I'll find a day or I'll get the itch. I'm like, dude, I'm gonna listen to Rain and Blood, and whenever I do that, it's gonna be like first song all the way through. That's kind of so I'd
Yeah,
have to go with that.
that's one of my favorite ones too. I think that one, God Hate Us All, and
Mhm.
Hell Awaits. Hell Awaits, I think is pretty cool too. It's like it's
Yeah.
old, but it's pretty cool too.
Mm-hmm.
Favorite song? I'm sorry, what?
Dude, they got a lot of good ones. It's tough to choose, but that's
Yeah,
kind of
it's
for it.
it's kind of hard when it's like they've been known for since 1983, I think. So it's kind of they have a lot of stuff on it.
Sure.
Do you have a favorite song from them?
Favorite song from Slayer? Ironically, my favorite of theirs is probably Disciple. So it's not even on Rain and Blood.
It's
But
which one it is?
Disciple.
Oh, it's from God Hate Us All.
Yeah, yeah. It's the chorus is God hates us all.
Man, that I gotta tell you, that concert on the final tour, when they
Hmm.
sang that song, it was freaking like it was out of this world. When he screams like "God hate us all," it was
Yeah, I
like
think they opened with it, didn't they?
what?
I think they opened with it, didn't they?
I think they opened with "Repentless," and I
Oh,
think
that's
it
right.
was right after that they played that song, and man, it was like it was out of this world. um, this doesn't need to be Slayer, but favorite concert that you ever been?
Favorite concert that I've ever been to? Holy hell! Can I give a two answer?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. First one, I'd say like favorite concert ever. And this is outside of metal. It was BB King, Al Green, and Etta James at Red
Oh
Rocks.
wow, you saw BB
Yeah.
King? That's awesome, man.
Yeah, it was at BB King's Blues Festival. And I saw this when I was like 13.
Wow.
But yeah, just to see the three monster legends in the blues field,
Yeah.
you know, ripping it, absolutely slaying at Red Rocks too. It was just
Oh
super.
wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, so that was a killer show. Then second, this one I'll go to like the metal punk realm of things. I'd probably say the first year of Knotfest because that was, let's see. So I was there to see quite a few bands, but the variety was really cool. But like Carcass had just released. I'm a huge Carcass fan.
Yeah.
Carcass had just released Surgical Steel, and I had seen them probably 6 months prior on the Surgical Steel tour, and they came back to do Knotfest. The one we saw them with the Surgical Steel tour, they played with Black Dahlia Murder, and then it was in kind of a small venue with kind of poor sound, and I think they kind of had an off night. But at Knotfest, I got to see Carcass at like their full force, and it was like mind-numbingly cool. They just slayed that stage, dude. They were on the second stage. A couple other bands were playing around, and just like everyone flocked towards Carcass. It was so rad. Cannibal played there too. That was great to see Cannibal Corpse again. Body Count, that was a fun one there. At that
Body Count would be nice, man. I never seen Body Count live.
Yeah, no, dude, they're tons of fun. You got to check it out. Yeah, it was a great bill, man. It was a great bill, a couple days long. We did we drove, me and one of my roommates and his dad, we took the RV of theirs out. So we were camping out for the 2 days that Knotfest took place. So we kind of had that, like, I've been to metal festivals, but I've never had like the multi-day metal festival thing up until that point. And I got to experience that day. It was it was really cool, man. So I'd say that's probably, yeah.
Craziest mosh pit that you ever been?
Craziest mosh pit that I've ever been in? Behemoth was pretty crazy. One with Cryptopsy was pretty good too. Let me think. I'm gonna have to kind of weigh this out. So, I think it was probably Cryptopsy.
Cryptopsy.
Yeah, they played. It was Cannibal Corpse was headlining. Cryptopsy was the band right before them, and then who was the other one? Obituary.
Obituary.
No, it was just a stacked death metal bill. But when Cryptopsy was on there, they played a lot from None So Vile, if you're familiar with that record.
No.
Brutal, fast pit music. And it was chaos, dude. Guys in there, dudes filled with guys my size. Big old circle pit, walls of death, people crashing in. It was one of the good mosh pits, though, so it was like everyone was helping each other up. There was no animosity, none of that crap. But it was just like, I can usually do pretty well in a mosh pit, because I'm so large, I don't really get banged up too much. That one I felt a little sore the day after.
Wow.
Yeah.
So your favorite band right now?
My favorite band right now? I've been listening to a lot of Arsis lately.
Cool.
Yeah, so this group, if people are watching, check them out. They're amazing. Tech Death. Yeah.
Cool. And
I would say this really quick, a criminally underrated band in the tech metal scene.
Really?
A lot of people know like the Necrophagists and the Spawn of Possessions and Tech Death, but Arsis,
I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah, dude, listen to We Are the Nightmare, the record. Any song on there, it'll blow your mind.
Cool. I'm gonna check it out tonight.
Hell yeah, man.
To close, what's your favorite song from my album? And then after you do that, just tell me where we can find you, your band, and just give out your information, because this is going to be recorded on my YouTube channel. So feel free to tell us about your band, where we can find you, how we can listen to your songs, how can we support your artistic work, and so on and so forth.
All right, so my favorite song on your record, we'll start there. Oh man, it's I always have a hard time on like projects I've worked on, because I like them all. It's like they all do different things.
I remember two that you said, but I wanna see if it changed it afterwards.
Man, I think my favorite I'd have to go with Hey Little Sister.
Hey, little
It's got this
sister.
kind of like ominous feel to it, but it's also just super punky and like the subject matter is awesome.
Yeah,
So I think that kind of like struck home, and I can jam to that one. Punk Arena was another cool one, so I'm kind of
yeah.
twofold there. Yeah, what were the two you had from our like conversations?
It was Hey Little Sister,
Yeah.
and which my wife actually wrote that song. I just got the rhythm for it, so she did part of it, and then I got the lyrics and did the song. But
Oh, nice.
that one and Look, You Have a Little Fan, which is a
Oh, yeah.
very fast song. So
Yeah. Oh, that was killer, man.
yeah,
I can't thank you enough for letting me be a part of it, man. I had a
all
great
right,
time. Hopefully, we can work together again in the future, but in some capacity. If not, we stay in touch. Always be brothers.
yeah.
Um,
Well, no,
for my
I have a bunch of songs here that we're gonna talk later because I have a bunch of
okay,
ideas. Like we've
hit me
written
up, man.
already, semi-ready, but I practice. I get in your device and practice a little bit more now before I actually record and send it to you, and we build the stuff. So
Cool, man. You
I'm
the
learning. I'm learning.
always
I
keep
have a good
growing, right?
future.
Yeah, always keep growing.
Yeah.
The And then I guess to find my stuff, so you can find me on Instagram here. You probably just have the name, but it's Jared Odensrath. Just mainly post up like guitar videos occasionally. I'm not super active. I'm working on that. I'm trying to be a little bit more. So guitar videos, music stuff, woodworking, strongman too. I do some lifting stuff on there.
Yeah.
For music, I have my YouTube channel. You can just go to Jared Kiefer, youtube.com/Jared Kiefer. I put up some covers on there and of like brutal metal songs or whatever I'm feeling.
Yeah, but
But also,
you have an acoustic there too.
yeah,
Which
so
is
I
pretty
do
cool.
solo acoustic guitar compositions
Yeah.
as well that I write for fingerstyle acoustics. So something kind of a departure from what most people would presume from me is like the brutal metal. A little bit more relaxing, but those I have three more coming soon with that, and then those will all be up on Spotify as well under my name, Spotify, Apple Music, everywhere. And as far as like music projects going on right now, the one that's currently active is called Vider's Throne. You can find that on Instagram, Spotify, Bandcamp, YouTube, anywhere. It's spelled Vidarrs, Throne. So it's a Norse god, Vidar. And that one's kind of like Viking metal. So we do stuff centered around the whole idea is Vidar takes over for Odin after Ragnarok when Odin gets killed. And we wanted to kind of write songs of what Vidar's perspective would be on our modern world and our modern issues. So how he would look at the areas of the pandemic or,
Oh,
just
that's pretty
general
cool.
societal topics. Yeah, and it could also be just silly stuff too. We've
Yeah.
got like drinking. Um, so that's a fun project. But I will say this too. I have another project that's in the works.
Nice.
Yeah, that one's it's going to be pretty darn active. We've got a lot of cool stuff coming for people. So be on the lookout. You can follow me, and I'll be posting about it and whatnot. But just be on the lookout for a group called TFD.
TFD. All right.
Yeah, just 3 letters, TFD.
All right. Cool. I'm gonna look it up, and as soon as you launch anything, let me know because I can share in my stuff too. Because like your band, the Viking project, I heard of it. I heard already, and I love it. So, and
Thanks.
I'm I'm learning a lot more of death metal now. Like I said, I grew up with thrash, so death
Yeah.
metal is kind of new to me. But I'm learning a lot more, and I love it so far. So anybody that wants to check it out, go check Jared. And as soon as this stuff is out, let me know. I can post it too, so people can know about it. Maybe once it's out, I can listen to and we can do another live.
Sure, man. Dave, I really appreciate that, brother. Same goes for you, man. Anytime you release anything you got going, this album too, I'll be promoting it for you.
Sweet,
Gotta help
man.
each other through this, but
Yeah.
yeah, man, thank you so much. I appreciate that, and thanks for having me on, man.
No,
This has been
thank
tons
you,
of
man.
fun.
I told my
Yeah,
wife, it's like I was waiting for this live because it's the main subject of my book. It's related with music and of course with the struggles that I went through, but how music actually helped me a lot to survive and keep fighting. So I was super stoked to be able to talk about 1 hour about Slayer, Iron Maiden, and all of that stuff. It's just like
Mhm.
I could talk for 5, but I gotta
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
gotta put the kids to bed.
Yeah.
And my dad now things are a little bit different, but
Yeah. No, I think that's great, man. I really appreciate you including me in this and having me on. I had tons of fun speaking with you. I think we got to a lot of stuff. As I said, you and I, we've had some long conversations. We could go on forever. I could go on forever too.
yeah,
I will say this, since this will be like a YouTube video too. Um, Anyone out there that's kind of feeling down or depressed or anything like that, music can be a great outlet. Please investigate, whatever makes you happy. But I know for me personally, music has been a lifesaver,
yeah,
and I hope it can be for you too. So this is let's all form a community around it. Be happy. Play some metal. Play some punk. Play some whatever you want. Uh,
yeah.
Music is
I can
it's
second that, especially with coronavirus now. It's a lot of depression going on, and I gotta tell you, like music, it's a lifesaver, man. And no judgments. You said it for me that day perfectly. You like what you like, and no judgments. You like death metal, just go for death metal. You like punk, go for punk. Like whatever rocks your boat in a way, and like Jared and I were living proof that music can be really good, and it shows that metalheads are harmless. Most of
yeah, yeah.
99% of them are harmless.
Absolutely, yeah. It's you know, uh, if you're struggling or anyone's going through anything, we you'll make it through.
Yeah.
We can,
Sometimes
music
it's
helps.
like I have a friend that says sometimes you just gotta scream, and what better place than in music? So
Yeah, dude.
you know
I was lucky enough to be a death metal vocalist, so I kind of just did that all the time.
exactly, and it's very healing, man. It's like I remember the first time I sang like my own songs, I was like, that feels really freaking good, man. So you gotta put it out there.
For sure.
All right,
Well,
man.
Richard, thank you so much, my
Thank
man.
you.
Uh,
I appreciate it.
go be the great dad that you are. Thanks
Thank
for
you, man.
spending some time chatting to a washed up metal guy. So
Oh, always good, man. All right,
cool.
guys.
Catch you later. Have a good one,
Catch you
everybody.
later, man. Thank you. Appreciate it.
See ya.
See you.